Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Creativity Flow. Tonight, we sit here and gather in the stunning South Coast Rivian Theater in Laguna Beach, and I believe it's a space that embodies a very special character, right? It embodies creativity, innovation, and a sense of community. And tonight, we have the distinct pleasure of speaking with the visionary behind this space, Denise Cherry, who's the Vice President of Marketing for Rivian. Denise is a multi-award-winning design executive whose career spans the cutting edge of architecture, interior design, and brand innovation. At Rivian, she has reimagined every aspect of the customer journey, from initial brand interactions to the delivery of these groundbreaking electronic vehicles to people's homes. Her visionary leadership has been recognized by Bloomberg BusinessWeek, Fast Company, Wired, Metropolis, and others. Before joining Rivian, Denise was a principal at the O+A studio before starting her own firm in San Francisco, which was responsible for designing iconic offices for tech giants like Facebook, Microsoft, and Uber. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in giving Denise Cherry a warm welcome.
That's like a phenomenal opening. I'm just going to have you read for me all the time.
So when your kids wake up in the morning, I'll be like, ladies and gentlemen,
That's right.
preparing breakfast for you this morning. So before we dive in, we're sitting in a venue that has become central to the personality, I would say, of Laguna Beach today. Can you share the story of how the South Coast Rivian Theater came to be and the unique challenges that you faced? And did I hear right that you uncovered a well beneath the surface of this place just weeks before opening?
Yes. So this project, as you can see, was really a labor of love, and it was a 4.5 year labor of love. I mean, there's two stories to this. One that people tell is like RJ walked by and saw the sign. It's not actually the real story. Uh, what happened was my team and I walked by and saw the sign, and I'm from Orange County originally. I had actually grown up going to this movie theater as a kid, and we'd spend a lot of time thinking about how we can build spaces that were not just about selling vehicles, but that were really about the essence of the brand itself, the essence of community and bringing people together and sort of this optimistic view of what the world could be. And for whatever reason, both RJ and I thought, that's a movie theater. Um, and in this optimistic view of the future, we didn't quite understand how long and how much labor would go into this building. But it was truly a journey working with the city of Laguna, working with the community here to start to create a space that really can become a canvas for those people. And we did find a well, I think 3 weeks. We found a few wells, but we found the final well about 3 weeks before opening. We had to call an archaeologist to come in and examine the well because it predated anything that anybody had. And so that was really, really stressful. But in general, like all of those hurdles and all of that work, like I think you can feel it when you come into this space that it's truly a space for the community here and for the people of Laguna, and it's not a Rivian space, it's space that Rivian has created for others.
And we are 3 feet above water, is that correct?
Yeah, so this is basically if you think about the way that this building is constructed, it is like a pier. There are 64 pylons that go 65 feet into the ocean, and beneath 3 feet below this is literally the ocean. So this was truly like building if you were to build a pier out across the beach right now, it's exactly the same kind of construction.
So actually, you were uniquely prepared for a challenge such as this. Your career began as an architect and an interior designer, and now you're leading marketing efforts at one of the most innovative companies in the world today. So how did that creative journey evolve, and what inspired you to embrace this new challenge with this new brand called Rivian?
I also didn't know anything about automotive before I joined this place, and I certainly didn't know anything about electric vehicles before I joined this place. So it's been learning after learning after learning for the last 5.5 years. But I think that's the magic of it, right? Someone I was chatting with tonight said, "You seem like the kind of person that says yes to things." And throughout my career, that's really what it's been about. It's like, yes, sure, why not? Let's try that. No, I don't. I've never created this office space before when I was younger. No, I've never built a factory once I got here. No, I've never set up a retail program. No, I've never launched a vehicle for people. But yeah, I'll try. Uh, and I think it is really like if I had advice for students and I had advice for how to embrace things in your career, that's what it would be. It would be to say yes. Because what's like the worst thing that could happen? Like the worst thing could happen is like you're going to learn something. That's an amazing thing.
So when you joined Rivian, as you mentioned, it was in the very, very early stages of the company's conception. Two prototypes, no vehicles on the road. So what's it like building a company's brand identity from the ground up when all you have is a blank canvas?
It's a great question. I think the beauty of this brand and the beauty of this being a founder led company is that so much of the heart and soul of what we are does come from our founder. Um, his approach to the world is our approach to the world. How do we create a brand that's going to resonate with people in a really powerful way? That's not just me, that's hundreds of people, thousands of people across Rivian that have contributed to that in meaningful ways because it's sort of a reflection of themselves in a really beautiful way. Um, it's been really exciting to see to go from you have one vehicle that, by the way, a show car is not a car. It is the most delicate thing you could possibly imagine. They cost millions of dollars. I again, to saying yes, I did not know that when I first started. And I can remember this time we were doing a photo shoot and the photographer slammed the door of the car and literally everybody else in the thing was like, because if you do that, the doors break and the glass shatters. I did not know that. Uh, but you learn, and I think that that's what's really been incredible about this journey is that constant evolution and that constant learning, and helping to craft a brand that really does speak to people in a way that like it represents the stories that we tell. We try and tell authentic stories, of course, because they're authentic to us, but more importantly, they're just truly optimistic, beautiful visions of what we think the world could and should be. And I think that as we progress into the next 5 years, that optimism and that heart is going to become ever more important. And I think it's really going to become something that even more resonates with people as we start to bring in new vehicles.
Now, we'll delve more into the ethos of the company moving forward. But one of the things that I first noticed when I walk in this space, after seeing a movie theater that I grew up with turn into what was said to me to be a dealership, I thought, how are they going to do that? But one of the things that you did so uniquely was you revolutionized the customer car buying experience from the digital configuration all the way to the kind of the seamless delivery process. Now, granted that you don't come from the automotive industry, perhaps that was to your benefit in reimagining what the customer experience would look like. But how did your design background inform the choices that you made as you kind of created what is the new dealership of the future?
It's a great question. The core of the company in general is really truly a clean sheet approach. That's not my approach. That's the entire industry and or the entire company. Mm, That's the beauty of the product themselves, right? A group of people who love vehicles, who love automotive, who love engineering, sort of sat down and was like, "What's the dream car? How can we make a vehicle and a product that is a sports car when you want it to be a sports car and is the best off-road vehicle you have when you want it to go off-road." And so because we are truly a startup and truly starting from the ground up, we were given the opportunity to say, what is the ideal experience? And I think if you're a designer, you come from a place of what of human interaction and how you can create meaningful experiences or seamless experiences for people. And I think what other legacy OEMs have struggled with is you've just got layers upon layers of other things, whether that's other decisions that other people before you have made, whether that's uh, business decisions that someone else, like business packages that someone else has created, whatever it is you have baggage. And we didn't have baggage. And it allowed us to be able to say, what's the way that's truly authentic for us and for how we want our customers to feel? And let's just execute on that.
I think what's so unique is that it's a space that sells cars. It's, so you walk into a Rivian and it's a very inviting space where if you want to go upstairs with your laptop and work, you can. If you want to option out the most technologically advanced car in the world, you can do that also. But there's an inspiring process of creation when you purchase a vehicle with Rivian, unlike a traditional dealership where you step on the lot, you strap on your armor, and you kind of get ready to fight your way through the process, right? None of us enjoy it. But speaking of your spaces, like the one we're in tonight, it feels more like a hub for a lifestyle brand, right, than a traditional showroom. How do these spaces embody Rivian's mission and brand ethos? And are you planning to replicate this nationwide?
I think I would get in trouble if I made a whole bunch of movie theaters. Finances would not like that. But uh, I don't know if you guys were noticing, like when before you all gathered here, you could see people upstairs mingling with food. You could see people testing out the vehicle. You could see people playing with the book, sitting down, chatting, grabbing a drink, whatever. That's what we want. We understand that the car buying experience is inherently a collective experience, right? You don't sit there, go to a dealership by yourself and say, I want all of these things. And then you come home and your family's like, did you get a new car? Like it's not a pair of socks, right? It's a decision that you want to bring people into the fold, and right? You want to bring your kids and let them climb in the back seat and see how it feels. You want to bring your friends and see if you can store the right amount of gear in the back or whatever it might be. And so we wanted to create spaces that allowed for that a collective experience. One of the barometers that we kind of used about like, does the space feel right? When a family comes in, do they feel like they have to hold their kid's wrist and like not let them run around? Or do they feel like the kid can climb around and be comfortable and go see the games that we have over on the corner? Because if you feel like you have to hold your kid and in shock or in fear, we failed.
Hmm. Now, if you could just kind of walk us through the showroom, because one thing I love every time I come here is the discovery of new coffee table books. It's almost like you could plan the dream road trip at the same time that you're buying a dream vehicle. Now, is that the intent and purpose?
It absolutely is. So those books are curated locally by some folks on my team. Each store has different books based on the location to hopefully inspire you to get out and explore out into the world, right? We really wanted space. We really want in general across not just space design, but as you think about all of the different brand touch points, it should always be about what our vehicle enables you to do, right? We are just an opportunity for you to get out into the world and to fall in love with the world because we believe that if you fall in love with something, then you want to protect it. So, how can we create a vehicle and a product that allows you to fall in love with the outdoors? So, to do that in spaces in particular, you'll be able to see a trip planning area, folks who will help you map out digitally, even across on your phone or on our website, how to plan a trip. It also just demystifies EVs. A lot of our owners are first time EV owners. And so you need to learn how to plan a trip with an EV. It's not hard per se, but it is different than you used to if you had a nice vehicle.
It's the same way that you kind of plot out the nearest gas station when you're, at a quarter of a tank of gas remaining, right? It's just this is fully integrated in the vehicle and it lets you know how far you can go before you need
And
to
how long it
recharge.
will take and we actually have our own charging network as well, not as robust as Tesla's yet. But we have these spaces called charging outposts. They are like sort of amenities and again truly brand expressions. We have one in Yosemite that's open right now, and we have one in Joshua Tree that opens on Friday. Um, and they really are. They're places where your kids can run around. There's playgrounds for your kids. There's games your kids can play. There's healthy snacks. There's lounge spaces, restrooms, coffee, and just create a space where you feel like you can experience the community that we bring together and the brand itself.
Now, the one in Yosemite is very unique. Can you talk about the discovery of that space?
I love it because it's an old gas station, and it was a gas station from, like, the 20s, and we found this, we purchased it, it's in the last town in in Groveland right before you get to Yosemite, and just this idea that we're taking a gas station and purposing it into something that is now, I don't know, for electric vehicles and representative of what the future can be in terms of infrastructure. It's beautiful. The building itself is net zero, so fully sustainably designed, and it's real cute. It's like a little
Very
guy.
cute, yeah.
Yeah.
So obviously, Rivian has a deep commitment to sustainability, right? Which is authentic to the brand, which is hard to do. You will have to you have to begin there. It's difficult to adopt it after the fact. Patagonia is another brand that comes to mind that is very authentic to its commitment for sustainability. How does that commitment shape your marketing strategy and inform the voice that you use and the customer experience as a result?
I think it is so foundational to who we are. If it it's hard, it's interesting because it's not a conscious decision. It's almost like a subconscious decision. Like, it's a given. Everything we do needs to be for the health of our planet. It's why we exist. And I think for my team, for the teams that work at Rivian, that's such an inspiring thing to sort of say, even when the decision is hard, we're going to make the decision that's based on our mission, and that comes from the top all the way down, and it's really embedded in who we are, and that's so inspiring, and I think you just see it threaded through all of the work because it's just threaded through the culture.
Yeah. And I think it also leads to a longevity within a company. Oftentimes you get a visionary founder, and without the establishment of that ethos and that culture within the DNA, the founder leaves, and oftentimes the company is adrift. But, I think RJ has been able to kind of instill this in the DNA of Rivian from the very top to the very bottom. When we first met, I'd said, every single person I've met at Rivian is a brilliant optimist in the way that they look at their position within the company, but the direction that the company is going in. And is that something that you would say is true throughout the company culture of Rivian?
I think that that's been I've as you mentioned in the beginning, I've worked for a lot of different technology companies over the years, and I've worked for a lot of different founder-led companies. And I think what you see with folks who are drawn to Rivian is the same sort of really high IQ. Like, we have brilliant engineers, we have brilliant designers, we have brilliant, like, business folks, we have brilliant people. Um, that's very similar to a lot of the other technology companies that you see, right? But what's different here is that there is an empathy and that there is an EQ that is just threaded through the culture. And I do think it comes from that optimism and that idea that for us, the future isn't doom and gloom. The future isn't scary. The future can be something that's incredibly beautiful. And so you just come from a place of kindness, even though that sounds really cheesy. That is very different than any other company I've worked with.
Now, you are also working in an industry that is rapidly evolving, right? New brands, different regulations, different kind of political forces at work, and many of whom kind of like to target, EV at times. How do you balance maintaining a competitive edge while staying true to that mission when so many forces of industry could be pulling you in different directions?
I think that our competitive edge is that mission. Like, I think what makes us really special is that optimism, is that saying yes, is that sort of vision for the future that it doesn't have to be dark and scary. Um, and maybe I'm biased, but I do believe that, like, the more the the darker it feels for some people, the more people are going to hunger for that counterpoint, and it's just always been who we are. So I actually really believe that it is that optimism and that mission and that kindness that will be our true competitive edge.
Now, I want to switch gears for a minute and kind of lean into your experience, particularly because we have a lot of students in the audience tonight, right? Aspiring creatives who are looking to move into industry. And we spoke on Monday, where you said that you are someone who really enjoys to embrace the undefined and the messy. Now, for our creatives in the audience, many of whom will go into industry for the first time, will get given new projects, right? Many of which are kind of daunting and intimidating on the face of them. How do you approach a new project? Rivian being an example, do you have an established process now at this point in your career?
No, no. I mean, I think anyone on my team will say we're working on that. That is a work in process. Uh, but I've always believed that like the way that it's I don't know where this phrase came from, but that idea that like the way you eat an elephant is one bite at a time. It's the weirdest phrase. Who eats an elephant? But it's true, like, just break things down into pieces. That is how you solve a problem, that is how you start to untangle whatever mess it is. Um, I like when things are undefined, I like to help take something that sort of exists like this and then structure it out and then build a path towards executing that thing, and the only way you do that is really, truly, like, step by step, piece by piece. Small incremental changes over time will make a huge impact. I think I actually think RJ had suggested something similar at the film festival, in terms of climate change, which is like small incremental changes do actually eventually lead to the thing. We're not going to make big leaps, but if we make small movements over the time, that's the same with any sort of problem or design problem or whatever it is. And then more tactically, like I'm big on a schedule. Like, you can have all the dreams and hopes in the world, but if you put it into a schedule, then it's a plan.
Hmm. So we often see that brilliant people are surrounded by brilliant people. And over the course of your career, right, you've these very high performing teams at both startups and for established companies. What approach do you take within your creative teams for fostering a culture of creativity, collaboration, and ultimately excellence?
I think that I am very, very lucky in that every designer on my team is a better designer than I am. My job is to clear paths for the team to be able to do their best work. Um, what I think early in my career, I don't think I understood that. I think it was really about how can I help shape the vision of this thing. But the older I get, the further in my career I get, the more I realize that that's not my job. Like, my job is to hire, to your point, brilliant people and then make sure that they have what they need to be able to, like, get their work done and to do the piece that they're really good at. My job is to stitch together 5 or 6 different folks and bring them together to create an executable path, but it's not to, nitpick a particular design. Like, by coming on the team, you've already earned that trust.
And when we spoke on Monday, I'd asked you, when you were given the task of standing up a creative team at Rivian, was it kind of a blank check? And you said, no, I arrived with the people that I needed. Can you talk to that?
Yeah, so, because I had had my own firm, because I even or through O plus A or these folks, I've I like I said, I do believe in trying to foster really incredible design talents, and so I've been lucky that over the last, call it 15 years, I've sort of accumulated people along the way. So there are people on my team today that have worked with me for a year, 2 years. There's some people that worked with me for 5 years since I started at Rivian and there are some people that have worked with me for 7 years, so somewhere before that. And then there's people working for 10 or 15 years at this point. And all of that shorthand goes a long way, right? That knowledge, and then you also have the sort of fresh voices and the fresh perspectives, and I think the balance in those two things is just incredibly powerful.
So, given that we have a lot of students here who will be going into the workforce, what are the qualities and the characteristics that you're looking for in the new hires for a creative team such as yours?
Curiosity, hands down. Like, ask why, ask questions, that ask for context, ask those things because that's how you're going to understand. And I think the other piece is just I've like I've never believed that there's like something's impossible. There's always a way to do something, or a constraint is actually just a design parameter. So I think the two things would be like, be curious and uh, a- and really be solution minded. How do you describe it?
So, you've been a part of some really iconic projects up in the Bay Area and Silicon Valley. Obviously, now you're leading a marketing team at this incredible company called Rivian. Looking back, what are you most proud of in terms of the accomplishments of your career, and what excites you most about where you're going next?
Oh man, I think if you had asked me this a few 5 years ago, I would have listed off the cool things that I have designed. Um,
Do you want to talk about any of those projects?
I don't know.
Because they're kind of cool. They're pretty incredible.
But I think we can, yes, we have 10 minutes. But to answer your question, if you ask me today, I think what I am most proud of is the team that I work with every single day, um, and the fact that I get to be part of this incredible mission. Um, I 5 years ago, I had never worked for like a mission-led company or a purpose-led company. I'd worked for a lot of companies who had claimed to be purpose-led companies. Um, but I had never experienced something where even when it gets hard, even when the decision is challenging, you still pick the thing that aligns to your mission and your vision. And it's been so inexplicably inspiring to work for that kind of place. That's the thing that I would not have known, and that's probably the thing I'm most proud of, is being able to be a part of this thing that's bigger than myself, whether that's the team or the projects are great too. This is a great project. Building a factory is pretty cool. But the people and the mission have been by far the best.
Now, there's a difference, right, between working for a client and working for a company. And within working kind of in your capacity for a company such as this, there's a creative freedom that must come from being the person who gets to make the thing as opposed to being given the thing to make. Um, have you kind of grown in your career or have you grown professionally since you've been given that blank slate to create at a place like Rivian?
I don't miss hourly reporting, like, not even a little. Uh,
The billing of hours?
no, I do not miss billable hours. But I think what has been great is and this is a testament to the brand that Rivian and that we have built, is the elasticity of that brand, right? What's been really fun about the various projects here, whether that's this amazing movie theater, whether that's our Halloween mode that we just did, like, over the fall with, David Hasselhoff and Knight Rider. Like, the elasticity of that brand, the richness of it means that there's so many ways that it can come to life. And so dreaming up new ways that this thing can become, like, real and alive for people has been so incredible. Um I think it's like Knight Rider is a really great example of something that's like our brand is playful, right? But it's also aspirational and it's also elevated and premium. And the fact that like this historic movie theater and like turning your car into the DeLorean from Back to the Future can exist in the same world and it makes sense says so much about the elasticity and the richness of the brand. And I think that's what's been the most exciting.
And where did the ideation for that kind of creative opportunity come from with the Knight Rider and DeLorean concept?
Our chief design officer loves Knight Rider. And, like, that was, like, his favorite show as a kid, and then they were trying to figure out what to do for Halloween, and it was kinda like, "What if we turn" because we're vertically integrated, we can do these really interesting things, and it was like, "What if our car gets a costume?" Like, we get costumes for Halloween, what would our car wanna dress up then? It's like, naturally, Kit. Like, what car doesn't wanna be Kit? And then it was like, "Well, let's turn the car fully into Kit. Let's bring in Hasselhoff. Let's shoot in the desert. Let's do all the things and make it really fun."
And I have to say that it was, for someone of that generation, deeply appreciated. While at the same time, I geeked out and had to explain to my 23-year-old employee what Knight Rider was,
Yeah.
which made me feel very old. So I'll put you on the spot here with the same thing that I said to Nikki Scoggins. And Denise today meets Denise coming out of school, however many years ago. You've got all the industry knowledge and know-how that you have today. What do you say to young Denise?
God. I don't think I don't think young me could have imagined that this is where my career would have gone, right? I mean, I actually have this very core memory of being, like, in college and reading somewhere that, like, "Oh, the average person changes careers 7 times," and I was like, "No way." Like, "That's not gonna be me. I'm gonna be doing I went to school for this, like, I'm gonna do this. I love it." Um, and so if me today were to come to just graduated me and said, "Hey, you don't design buildings anymore." I don't think I would have believed it, but I think what I would recommend to that person is just to stay the same thing I'd recommend to any of you, stay super open to the opportunities that present themselves to you, even if it doesn't seem like it's going to be the right thing. It probably will eventually it might be just an interim step to the right thing. Um, I absolutely love what I get to do now. I wouldn't have known that. 23-year-old me wouldn't have known that, but it actually stitches together everything that I love. It stitches together the creative, it stitches together the business aspect, it stitches together, like, working with really incredibly talented people. So it's ironically probably the most ideal thing I could have done, though I didn't know I was gonna be doing this even a year ago. So
Well, that's gonna be all the time that we have for today, but I wanna thank you. It's been such a pleasure to get to know you.
yeah.
Thank you for this wonderful gift that is the South Coast Rivian Theater here in Laguna Beach. Um, I applaud the work that you're doing and your team. You feel the optimism, right? You feel the sense of ambition when you walk into this space that a group of people with a shared vision can change the future, and I think that that's what the brand of Rivian stands for, so well done.
Thank you.